Hey everybody, it's Michelle LaVore and
Devin LaVore
coming at you. And we're so glad that you're here, and we just pray that you guys are blessed by a little mid to late week snack. It's the middle of the week for us, but it'll probably
they'll get it on Thursday,
which is kind of the
and then we
later
won't
half
film
of the
our
week.
Act 242 until Sunday. So
yeah, but it's a little midweek snack.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, the Lord gives us some more snacks for you guys to have, and then we'll dish those out. But
trust us, we taste them first, and then we deliver it to you, and we go,
Yes. And so, that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to share some things that God was sharing with us last night, and we just hope that it gives you guys encouragement in your own walk, and maybe just some clarity in just the kind of the season and moment we're in right now.
Especially if things have just kind of gotten weird or something, or you've been going through some sudden, maybe tensions and difficulties and just bizarreness.
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on? We have a potential solution or revelation.
Yes.
So anyway, huge thank you to everyone who gives to us. We always like to give a big shout out, right? And if you would like to give to us, there is a PayPal and Cash App below. We always like to put this in the front because you're worried about that camera shaking, aren't you?
I am.
You're just staring at the camera going, it's shaking, stop moving, Devin. Well, good luck with that, honey. But we always like to put this at the front of our video because our videos tend to be pretty long, and a lot of people, God bless you, I know, I don't do long videos either. I make long videos, I don't watch them, okay? I'm just serious. If the video ain't 3 minutes, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? But no, I mean, unless it's really good, but a lot of times, we put this at the front because at the end, it doesn't have as much effectiveness. So we put it at the front. So again, if you want to give, the links are below. And that would be super cool if you consider us over the next several days, because after we make our next payment, it's going to be like, whoa, we're getting close to E here. Mm-hmm. We haven't been there since like December. Mm-hmm. Because the Lord just was blessing us in the month of December. Mm-hmm. It was just amazing.
So just we're going to just dive right into what the Lord was just kind of sharing with us. And this is something that for me, it was kind of put on my plate a few weeks ago, but just kind of, I've just been, it's one of those things where you receive it from the Lord, but then you just let it kind of sit and simmer and grow. But last night
it's a crock pot revelation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But last night it was really just on my heart to share it with our family, and I mean, Devin and I have been talking about it for a while, but just with the family, and then we were like, hey, this could be really encouraging. And basically I was getting a lot of 111s, and I ended up going to, at the time, it ended up being...
we're still getting them.
I know.
I mean, we're getting them like crazy.
So I was looking in Deuteronomy chapter 1, and in verse 3, it says that on the first day of the 11th month, Moses began basically this whole time with the people of giving them the law again.
Great big sermon.
It was a huge sermon.
Called Deuteronomy.
And so that kind of just sparked in my heart this idea of, wow, I really feel like we're in a time of transition. I know that we're in transition a lot because God is
transition or waiting,
moving.
What are you waiting for? Oh, my next transition. Well, what are you going to transition into? Waiting.
Yeah. but this in particular really, I think, is important because when Moses began giving them the law again, and he spent, all of Deuteronomy is him talking and reminding the people of where they've been, telling them where they're going, giving them just like all of the law, and it was preparing them to go into the promised land. So basically, if you look at from when Moses began, which was the 11th month, the first day of the 11th month of the Hebrew calendar, and you go all the way to basically the 11th day of the first month in the Hebrew calendar, which is also a 111. They go from being in the wilderness to literally dwelling. They're in the promised land. They crossed over on the 10th of the first day of the month. It's Nisan is the month. And then that next day was their first full day dwelling in the promised land. And I'm like, wow, I'm looking at this like, here's a 111 and a 111. And in between is this
bookends.
Yeah, they're these bookends of this time where they were transitioning from leaving the wilderness and coming into the promised land. And so that's kind of really where I feel God has us. We're in this process of
definitely
really transitioning, and it was just kind of like, boom, here we go. You know, Moses, he gave them the law. He died. They mourned for 30 days. Then immediately God tells Joshua, okay, Moses, my servant, is dead. Take 3 days, have everybody pack up their stuff because they're going to be crossing over. And then you hear, okay, they crossed over, and right away they go into circumcision, Passover. I mean, it's just like one thing right after another. But it was super
kind of like
important.
An Amos 9 situation.
Yeah, it was just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're really in this time of kind of the giving of the law, at least for us and our family. I feel like there's just been so much of God pouring out.
Oh my gosh.
And
this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And this is what's getting ready to take place. And let me give you a little warning. Let me give you a little encouragement.
Yeah.
But it's all about what's coming. It's not about anything current. I mean, I'm just getting this right. Got maybe a realization, like, is there anything current? I don't think there is.
Yeah.
There's just been like
But we've also have spent some time even actually talking about the past of like what God has brought us through.
Yeah.
Which I started actually listening to Deuteronomy. I usually do that. Like on
the audio, the dramatized.
I like to listen to the audio because then it's like I feel like I can just go, and it just gets it in.
Absorb it.
I love having kind of that.
How do you
panoramic.
dramatize Deuteronomy?
I'm
just saying. How's it even possible?
But that's kind of what Moses did. Like the first, almost
he dramatized it.
Yeah, through chapter 3, and he's just literally has been going through like, and this is what the Lord did. He brought us out, and we camped over here, and then don't you guys remember we went over here, and this is what God did for us here, and then we moved over here, and so he's just kind of running through it. Obviously, he's not going through
so many testimonies,
every single stop. But then he's going to continue and go into, like, this is what God's bringing you into. He's bringing you into a land that is flowing of, milk and honey and all of that.
Like he promised from the beginning.
Exactly. And
sorry your parents had to miss out, but his promise isn't missing out on being fulfilled. Who wants to receive the fulfillment of it? That's basically what's happening right there.
Yeah. But then throughout that time, he's also giving warnings. He was giving, establishing what the inheritance was going to be for all the 12 tribes. And so it's just like, there was so much that was going on and being unpacked there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the end was then when Moses dies.
Yeah.
And then they have that time of mourning.
The last thing he did was give a speech. Sounds like me.
Yep.
You're only like, you can't stop laughing because it's true, isn't it?
It's true. It is true. But did you have something you wanted to jump in? It almost seemed like
I was gonna say with how is that relating to like us right now? Like when you said start, like packing or unpacking or something like that, and it just kind of hit me, was like, that's kind of like what's been going on in our family. Like we've been getting like packed on with the word of the Lord, but then we've been like, God's just been unpacking some stuff as well. And it's just you can tell it's all been all this preparatory work. And so some of it is stuff coming out that hasn't come out in a while. And we're dealing with things that haven't been dealt with in a while, but not in this long, dark night of the soul way.
No.
It's been kind of like, hey, you need to get that taken care of. All right, get that taken care of. All right, we're moving on to the next, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's been kind of like this. You know, we've gotten communications from other people recently saying like how things have been just suddenly different in their life, and it's been weird and unusual, and it's like, man, I think it's been weird and unusual because God is preparing us for the weird and unusual. You know what I mean? He's getting our hearts ready, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been a time of preparation for sure.
For sure.
Especially, I think this week, I think just even more so, and just seeing it even more clearly, I was just like, wow, God, you're really speaking and hitting on these parts and areas of our hearts where you're giving warning and you're giving encouragement and to as you go forward and what we're going into. And a lot of it also is just about, hey, when the Spirit of God comes, like, let him move upon your heart. And so I just feel like there is a sense of just all of these transitions. So, you know, with the Israelites, Moses is like, okay, I'm giving you the law. I'm reminding you of the journey that we've been on. I'm reminding you of both the negative things that have happened, but also what God has done. And I think part of that was to really encourage them, like, hey, remember all these battles and these places that God gave us and gave, you know, he said, I've put them into your hands, and he had victory there because they were getting ready to go into the promised land where they're going to have to battle and fight and go forward. Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of like us, you know, we always talk about our hiddenness time and our priestly training time and all that stuff, right? And it's like, well, you get trained to do something that you're going to do later on. You know, you get in a little safe place of training so that you can go out and do it for real. So the thing that you have been trained for in hiddenness is going to be the thing that happens in manifestation, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like it's just been good to be in a place of training and all that, and then part of that training is desiring those promises and just God kind of motivating and moving us along and encouraging us and pushing us, and because now we're going to step into a situation where there it is, literally the promise is in your hand. Now what do you do with it?
Yeah.
Aren't you glad you got all that information before you got the baby? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be like, come on, give me the baby, give me the baby. Okay, here's the baby. What do I do with it? Yeah. You know, that's true. No. You don't. You need to give that to someone else. You don't know how to take care of a baby? Give it to someone else. You know what I'm saying? I was adopted. You know, it could have been better, it could have been worse, but here I am, I'm alive. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I was fed, I was clothed, I was housed. You know what I'm saying? It's just at the end of it all, you know, it's like if you God, so that's why God, he takes us through a process. See, God, listen. What's that video of that little kid? Listen. No, I'm just kidding. It's like, there's a reason why some people's promises have to be delayed. And there's a reason why some people's promises, the Lord's like, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. There's a reason, because we have to be prepared. Like everything that Joseph went through actually prepared him to do what he did, so that it wasn't like a culture shock. He was trained in the little, so that when he was set in the much, it was like, oh, this is just like this. It's just like bigger numbers. You know what I mean? That's all it is. It's like, this is just like overseeing the prison. It's just a lot more people. The same structure, the same idea still applies. It's just bigger numbers. You know, and it's like, if you can't go through all the little nooks and crannies and details and nuances of what it will need, what you will need to have in you to become what God wants you to become and fulfill the calling with excellence and virtue and character and integrity, and not have these little cracks and tears that the enemy can just find a little hole and just, because he knows where it is, a little chink in your armor, and get you and then blow up the whole thing. Then the Lord, he knows these things. He's like, no, you got to wait till you guys are totally ready. You know, and I think that's what the significance of that video, you've made the final cut. It means you're ready. You've made it. Don't judge yourself. Don't count yourself out. You know, it's like let the Lord judge. Psalm 75:7. The Lord is judge. He will raise one up and put down another. You know, let him do all the judging. So you want to be prepared for what God's given you. You know, and those who've made the final cut, he's saying you are prepared. I, the judge, say you're prepared. And so therefore, what happens next? What we're going through right now. This whole Deuteronomy type of reading of the law, preparing you for what's getting ready to happen. It's almost like an orientation. I'm going to give you promise-fulfilled orientation right now. You know, and did you want to talk about the death of Moses part?
Yeah, well, that's kind of where I was going next. Is
that where you were headed?
I do feel like, at least for us, and this might apply to others as well, but I just feel like there's going to come a time where, you know, it's like once Moses died, and then there was this time, 30 days for the Israelites to mourn the death of Moses. And what does Moses represent? He's representing that whole time in the wilderness. It's like it is officially over. And God even said, because Moses wasn't able to go into the promised land, he was like, he has to die as well. And he was literally the last one to die of that generation that was not allowed to go in. And so at that point, it was like they were released to be able to go into the promised land. But there was this transitional time where there was an honoring. Really, those 30 days were a time of mourning, but really a time of honoring who Moses was in their life. And it was also preparing Joshua to he was the new leader. And so there was just this transitional time there. And I feel like in a lot of ways there's going to be that transitional time where
after this transition
yeah, I know, so many transitions, but really that's kind of how it works when you're starting to move. You know, even when you get a job, a lot of times you're gonna you have the transition of leaving the current place you're in, or, you know, wherever you're at, maybe, and then you go into the job, but you receive training, and then, so it's like there's this movement of transition to where it's like, okay, you're on your own, you know, you're doing your job. And so it's kind of the same way for us in what God does with us. And so there's this sense of like a time for things to change and transfer, a time for the people's hearts to really, I think, really just rejoice in what God had done with them, even though the wilderness was difficult, just like rejoicing in like, wow, look at what God has done. He's keeping his promise, or thanking him for, you know, just all that he's done. And then having Joshua himself being able to move into that position, and then you see at the end of that's when end of the 30 days, then it's basically like God's like, let's just go. Like it is time to move forward.
And so it's like with the death of Moses, you have the getting rid of the old and stepping into the new, which is really kind of cool, because the old in Moses' sense was really old, and Joshua was not as old. But he was the younger version, you know what I'm saying? And I just feel like that kind of applies, at least to me specifically, in a prophetic sense of just like, or a spiritual analogy sense, like the way I am like right now, and everything that's going on with me, and the constant tiredness, and the pastor in the wilderness type thing, and all that stuff, and the hammer, and you're the anvil. It's like that's all going to be gone, you know? And then I'm going to go into this newer, fresher version of myself. You know what I mean? I don't want to get into all the details, but it's just going to be super cool. I'm going to become a sword instead of a hammer. And it's funny because you said there was a time of transition after the death of Moses and everything. I had a vision one time where I saw the hammer. It kind of looked like Thor's hammer. And I was like, that's what I am? Well, praise the Lord. But I saw the hammer. It was just laying in this, I don't know how to describe it. It was like laying on the lip of this huge, like molten lava bowl. It was like a bowl of but it had this molten heat, lava type stuff in it.
Yeah.
And it was just laying kind of on the edge of it. And the Lord it was like a prophetic picture of like, that's going to happen.
Yep.
That's going to happen. As soon as you said what you said, it just reminded me of it. And that's kind of why I seemed to maybe chime out during part of the video, because I was like, wow, that's what's going to happen. The Lord's like, here we go. This is coming. That vision that I gave you, that prophetic word, it's coming. It's because that's one of the things that I've been feeling lately, is just the sense of like, time to release, time to let go. But then as this week starts, it's like I'm starting back up again. There's like hammering, and I'm not the hammer. I mean, the hammer is in the hands of God, and I'm not saying that everything that I do is of the Lord or led by the Spirit like Jesus was. I mess up sometimes, on occasion. Nothing. It's nominal. That's called sarcasm. But either way, it's like I can just tell, like, oh man, this is, if it's coming up again. See, because I think if you find yourself in a situation where you really feel like God's moving, and then all of a sudden all this weird stuff starts happening, there's a reason for it. It's like it's literally part of the preparation. You can have some dark and stormy situation come up, and it's like, oh, this is actually the Lord. He's doing something. He's preparing the ground. He's doing something. It's not always the enemy. Sometimes it is. Sometimes the enemy, he what is it called when you take advantage? Thank you. There's a word like what's it called? Exploits. That's it. Thank you. He exploits those confusing moments to make it seem like the whole thing is him, because in that way he can steal, you see, what God's doing, because it's negative and it's painful and it's terrible. Oh, it can't be the Lord. It's like, well, think about what Jesus went through. That was negative and dark and painful and terrible, nth degree, but it was the Lord. It was the pathway of salvation for all mankind. So whatever we're going through, if it's the Lord taking us through it, and it's painful and horrible and terrible and devastating, it's going to be great in the long run. If we have to go into the ground and die, well, then that's going to be good, because then we're going to break open into a resurrection life. So it's like a prophetic passing of the baton, from the death of Moses to the resurrection of Joshua, so to speak. You know what I mean? There's a death and there's a resurrection there. And there's just going from priest to king, because Joshua was like a king priest. He was like, he went out to conquer. You know what I'm saying? So there's just good things that God is preparing you for. Yeah. Good, awesome stuff.
Yeah, and so to just know, I think, for us, it was just really encouraging, because it's like, all right, God has us in certain places, and we're not putting timelines on it. I know that it's easy to do.
Not publicly.
Well, it is.
In our heads, we're going, what about this? What about this? No, that doesn't work. How about this? Bring that in.
No, but I mean that it's easy to do those things, but I'm not saying that it's going to follow along and like,
we're not putting any stock in it.
That time, but it's really a lot of times when the Lord is highlighting things like that, or other scriptures that might have a time stamp on it. It can be that you have to really look at what is the heart of what God is doing. And I think that the heart of it is that he's saying like he has time for transition. He has these moments to prepare our hearts to get us ready for what he's going to be bringing forward.
It's in the script.
And that was something that Devin said a long time ago, but it's just like, a person who is
God makes time for time.
Like, you know,
a good leader.
A good leader is going to make time for time, and it's like the Lord's like, I am going to make time to prepare my people for what I'm doing, and that also, you know, on this side of things it can be difficult because it feels like it goes on forever and ever. But on the flip side, it's like you have to know, like, God is going to make time for us to enjoy, to be able to feast on all of what he does, and for our hearts to really soak it in and just like receive the fullness of it.
So you know, can be ready.
I was reminded of just now, like in Rick Joyner, it's the Final Quest. There is this part where in this, I guess, was it an encounter, I guess, that he had with the Lord. The whole book's like an encounter. But he goes into this garden area, and they just take like one bite of like fruit. And it was just like, just that one bite, it was like so savory. Like you could just spend hours. You could
get lost in it.
And so I feel like that the Lord's like, yes, I make time for that, in the sense that he can help us to just fully receive everything, to just really take it in, really enjoy it, and it not be something that's rushed, even if it does come quickly. But that God's like, I know what I'm doing, and so when you're prepared, you'll be able to receive. So that's really just kind of the heart of what we wanted to share today, of just kind of hopefully encouraging you guys in just knowing, like, God is moving, God is working, he has his plan, and just that,
and he's preparing.
He is preparing his people to go into the promise. To go into the promised land, to see the fulfillment of the word that he has spoken over their lives. So until next time, guys, we will see you later.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.